Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we've been having a bit of an issue with the design of our craft here, and specifically losing attitude as we're attempting to land on the barge. Now, we designed this. If this doesn't work, I have another idea that we will pursue. I want to see how this goes, so we'll find out. Let's launch this guy. We know we need to be in the easterly direction at 76 degrees. So we're going to position right there. And then I'm going to have this be at a pitch of about 60 degrees. And we're going to lift this right on off, and we'll see what happens as far as attitude control here. If this works, great. If this doesn't work, I have another significantly dumber idea, and that will be wonderful. We do like significantly dumb ideas here. So let's just head on over, and we'll see how this ends up going. So we're just going to keep burning here for the time being. We need to get quite a lot of altitude. Excellent. So we currently have an apoapsis of about 7 kilometers. It looks like we're not having significant issues coming up, which is good. I was a little concerned about that. With these, like, rear-facing fins here, but the rear-facing fins are kind of dumb. We'll see about changing those here in a moment. If this doesn't work. If this works, fantastic. If it works, I'm delighted. Okay, let's drop this down to a pitch of 45. Now I'm dropping us down to a pitch of 10. We don't need too much more altitude. At this point, we need horizontal speed, and a lot of it. We do need some more altitude. But let's just push on through. Okay. There we go. We are on our second stage here. And just keeping an eye on that altitude. We're still fairly low in the atmosphere here, so we're experiencing quite a bit of drag. I think 60 degrees is maybe a little too low, but for the moment, this is looking fine. So our surface velocity is going up here, and you can see we are making some decent progress in pushing out our velocity. And we need to get that apoapsis up a little further, which is why I'm still burning at 10 degrees here. So time to apoapsis is ticking down, but it's ticking down slowly. So that is definitely noted. And our apoapsis is increasing more and more quickly at this point. I would like to consider dropping us down to a 0 degree pitch now, and seeing what that does to that apoapsis. Yeah, it's going up much more slowly now. That looks good. We're going to be at 78.1 very, very shortly. We're already overshooting here, so let's cut the throttle. Looks good. And the question is, are we overshooting too much? Our apoapsis is only 78.2, so we don't have as much altitude as we have had in the past. And I can definitely see that we're going to need to change our attitude a little bit here. So let's put our heading at 0. And let's burn this up a little bit like that. Okay, back to prograde. That looks fairly close. I think we may have overburned it a little bit. Let's bring ourselves over to retrograde. We're basically out of the atmosphere right now, but we're never quite going to get out of the atmosphere here. So we're going to continue to slow down. The question is, are we going to slow down too much? And are we going to be able to hold attitude with these kind of wacky fins? We'll see. But the idea, if we don't successfully hold the attitude here, is that we're going to kind of convert this into a really funky plane. That's the idea. With, like, wings up here, and then we'll just try to glide to position. We'll see if that works. For the moment, we are accelerating right now, but we are experiencing some drag, so this is going to be moving this way, and as time progresses, of course, this is going to be moving this way due to the rotation of Drew. So we need to keep those two factors in mind here, and I can definitely tell that we're going to need to correct our trajectory out this way a little bit. So I'm going to take us up to 180 degrees. Okay. And now we're going to move back. I just wanted to adjust that trajectory ever so slightly. Cool. So now the question is, are we going to have a significant overshoot of the drone ship? Well, we're still quite high up right now. No doubt about that. We've got 46% fuel here. We should start slowing down fairly soon, though. So I want to allow the drag to do that. Okay. So we're at about 50 kilometers right now. I'm going to begin a landing burn here because we're overshooting. I think that's very, very clear. So we're going to be slowing down a fair amount, and we also are going to have some drag here. So that is very, very much noted. Let's get rid of a bunch of lateral velocity here. And I would like to be at 0 degrees. Okay. I want to get rid of just lateral velocity. We're going to overshoot this, looks like. We are losing attitude here. Okay. There's an attitude loss. So it's clear that these fins aren't doing the trick. We need something more hefty. Because at this point, if we had those wings, we could glide over and get a lot closer. That said, we still might be able to do that. But this still really, really, really wants to sit prograde. So I think we just need to bring this back and rethink exactly how we're doing this approach. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to ditch these wings, and we're going to add in wings here. So we're going to add in these wing sections. So I want this to be at like 0 degrees for right now. That is definitely a large wing section, and that is probably a sufficiently large wing section. And then we could have fins designed for like pitch or like for yaw authority, but I'm not sure if we even want that. So let's try this just like this. Now, this control surface does exist, right? Yes, it starts with its own, so that looks good. We can also have fuel in this. Battery, jet fuel, it can even contain Carolox. But I don't think we want any fuel in it for now. Let's keep the fuel empty, and let's just mirror this over radially. And it'll be something like this. Now, this is going to be a little harder to lift. It's going to be a fair amount of additional mass. I want to see how this thing ends up flying. It's going to be real interesting. So, it has issues. It's too wide for the selected launch location. Okay. By 5 meters. I attempted an autofix. It didn't do anything. So we're going to have to make these wings significantly stubbier. About like that, perhaps. And they're a bit swept now. So let's see what that would be like. That allows us to launch. So I'm not sure about our positioning in terms of mass. So I want to bring that back. And let's detach this. And I want to take a look up here. Specifically, let's see, where do we see those again? Here. So I want to see the center of mass compared with the center of lift. So we can see here the center of lift is slightly ahead of the center of mass. That's not what we want. So I want to bring this back to be about here or so, perhaps. I also want to change the angling of these guys to be at like 135. About like that. Okay, so now we're going to put this back in, and let's put this out on the alley pad, and we'll see how this goes. So we know for a fact that we want to bring this over to 76-ish degrees. 75, 76, something like that. Actually, if we come out here and we select the drone ship right now, make that be our target, we can see here the exact angle. So really, 75 is the correct angle, according to that. Okay, so 60 worked fairly well, but this is going to be heavier. I'm going to angle for 70, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, let's go. These are much shorter control surfaces. I'm not sure if they're long enough. I just noticed that they are significantly shortened. Okay. We're having some potential attitude control issues. We'll see if that cleans itself up as we ascend. It should. In theory. Okay, so our apoapsis is about 10. Okay. Yeah, that's a big old flip. I'm not shocked about that. I'm not shocked about that at all. Let's pull that right on back. And I want to look at the control surfaces on these swept wings. I want the control surfaces to be significantly longer. So this control surface basically kind of is what it is, huh? Okay. How do we alter that? There must be a way. So the input is currently auto. I want this to be... That's reasonably fine. The deflection speed is 100%, which is probably okay. The deflection angle is 35, which is also probably okay. That is more like what I want. Okay. Let's see if this is still prone to flipping. I would not be surprised if it is. We may have to just go straight up with it being that prone to flipping. So let's put this at 75 and then at 70. And let's see if it's still super prone to flipping with the increased control surface. But if we can glide this in, at least to some degree, then that is going to be a very significant usability increase to us, because what we need is the ability to bank, turn it around if we overshoot, glide back over, and then pop the parachute when we're over our destination, or very close to it. So that's the overall concept here. We are definitely having some attitude control issues here. I'm going to rotate us like so. That's better. And we're just looking to get a bunch of altitude here. No doubt about that. So we're just going to get altitude up to about 50 kilometers, and then we're going to drop this nose. But we're definitely burning a lot more fuel to lift this. It's a lot heavier. That's not shocking. So that's 50 kilometers there, and I'm going to drop the nose down to a pitch of 10 degrees now. Okay. I'm now dropping it to a pitch of 5 degrees. And let's continue. Okay. Now, having some sort of a... I'm thinking right now, what if we made these quad and used the ones on the side as, like, tail fins? That might not be a bad idea, actually. We'll think about that. Okay, so our apoapsis is not quite high enough right now, but what we do definitely need is we need to drop this down to here. So our apoapsis is now high enough, and the question is, do we have enough speed? And the answer is no, we do not. So we need to continue to burn here for a good long time. However, I'm going to nose us down a little bit, about 10 degrees down. I want to be dropping our overall apoapsis at this point. Okay. So we're going to bring this in, and this is approximately the right trajectory. But hopefully we'll be able to steer to change that trajectory a bit. Because I think we're going to have to go this way a bit. Okay. Cutting the engine. We've got 45% left on that engine. Now, this time, we want to stay on prograde. We're not going to want to go to retrograde. The question is, are we going to need additional surfaces to help us orient? Are we going to need a dorsal stabilizer, I guess I would say? That might be a necessity. We'll see. For now, we're just cruising along, and this is going to convert some of that downward speed into lift, which is going to reduce our overall downward momentum, right? So that's understood, and we certainly need to correct our velocity out this direction. So let's do that. So a small correction out here to about there or so. And I want to be back on prograde. Thank you very much. I want our heading to be right there. Okay. Now I want to rotate us so that we are entering the atmosphere about like this. Cool. I mean, we're already in the atmosphere. We never actually technically left it. So that is fine. We're 230 kilometers away from the drone ship here, but the idea is if this generates enough lift, and I don't know if it will or not, but if this generates enough lift, the idea is that we're going to be able to steer this and just kind of fly it over the drone ship, maybe even do a couple passes and lose momentum that way to be able to safely parachute or potentially propulsively land this contraption. We'll see how maneuverable it actually is. Now, that's going to be very interesting. No doubt about that. But I think that this is probably the way that we're going to end up going with this, having this be like a mini space plane. So for now, this seems reasonably fine. We are going to be having some heat issues, potentially. We'll see if the wings decide to burn off. Two parts are taking heat damage, so the wings are taking heat damage right now. We will see if they survive the re-entry. That'll be a bit of a concern for sure. We are slowing down at this point, but is it slowing down enough? The answer is no. Okay, so the wings blow up, and we're going to have to do something about that. So what are we going to do about it? The answer is we're going to have to do a re-entry burn. There's no way around that. So let's retry that, and let's try it with a re-entry burn. So we're going to bring this over to 70 degrees, and this is going to go to 75 degrees. And let's go. So we're going to accelerate this speed a bit and get through this portion. So re-entry burn is going to need to slow us down, of course. And I just want to get a bunch of altitude here right now. So we're going to push this altitude up again to about 50 kilometers. Then I'm going to park us at about 5 degrees or so. So that's 30 kilometers, 40, and 50 kilometers. I'm now parking us at a pitch of 5 degrees. Cool. So we're going to build up a bunch of horizontal speed here, and we're going to need a little bit more apoapsis here. That's fine. But we're getting primarily this speed. Let's rotate this way a bit. And we probably want to get rid of the gimbal on this engine as well, as I think about that. That would probably be a useful thing. So I think we're going to need to nose up a little bit. We probably have close to sufficient speed here. Yeah, we're going to need to nose up here. I'm just wanting to boost up our overall altitude a bit. There we go. And now I'm going to cut this throttle. Cool. So then the idea is we flip retrograde. And as we make our way around to retrograde, we're going to need to eventually, and in fact, we may want to push this so that the apoapsis is like directly above this or something, But as we push this in, we're going to need to make a few alterations. So we can see right now, we're going to have to make a correction out this way, which I'm going to do. Actually, it needs to go the other way. We need to go south. Okay. And I'm going to make a small corrective burn here because our velocity is a bit off. There we go. Now I'm going to bring us back to retrograde. Now, we are slowing down here, and that is absolutely noted. Our velocity is still a little off, but in theory, that's what the wings are for. We are going to need to do a braking burn as we come in. But this should, we know, want to flip around to prograde. But we'll see what happens with the wings. That may change. We are definitely going to want to start our re-entry burn probably about the same time as the wings start suffering heat damage. Let's see how that feels. We can see the temperature on the wings is currently dropping. And our overall surface velocity is increasing, so that is certainly noted. Okay, the temperature on those wings is going to start going up soon. We can see the drag force is increasing. Definitely increasing. Now that temperature is not cooling down as much. Now it's starting to heat up. Okay, so that is all understood. The main problem right now is we're going to be undershooting this, but we have a lot of altitude, and that's probably okay. So let's let this temperature build up a little bit here. And once it reaches maybe about 40 degrees, I'm going to start a re-entry burn, and we're going to try to slow ourselves down a bit. Okay, so right about now, I'm starting a re-entry burn. And we're just looking to slow ourselves down specifically laterally, not really in terms of pitch. The temperature is skyrocketing on the wing right now. So we're just looking to continually slow this down. We can see we have some lift force here. The temperature is now dropping. That looks good. And we're going to flip this around to prograde. It did want to flip there. So that's a good sign, actually. And I want to rotate us over this way a little bit. Actually want to lock target out here. Okay. So that looks fine for right now. We're just trying to lock target up this way. Noted. And we are slowing down. We're definitely seeing a shimmy pickup. But we are slowing. So as we slow, ooh, that was not the direction I expected it to go, and I guess that makes sense, actually. Let's continue to lock this target, and I would very much like to see us able to nose up. We're going to have to slow down here. So we know that we're going to need a fairly hefty overshoot with this technique then. And we're really struggling to nose up right now. Like, we are really struggling to nose up. It's got a big shimmy. So we're not able to come out of this dive. I think we don't generate enough lift is what I'm guessing. So that is noted, but that's definitely some lessons learned there. No doubt about that. I wanted to actually undo that. So I want to bring this back to the design. So, at this point, what's the overall craft width? Can we expand these wings out any further before we run into issues? Okay, so we need to drop it by 0.6 meters. That should be 0.2, 0.4. Actually, we swept the wings a little bit there. Is that good enough? 0.2. Okay, that is now almost good enough. Okay. What if we don't sweep the wings quite as much? In fact, what if we did it? That's probably not good. I'm thinking about the control surfaces here. So swept wings are, you know, a thing. But we are certainly going to want to have as wide of wings as possible, but we might want broader wings here. So I'm thinking that maybe we do something kind of like that. That's, of course, too wide to launch. We'd need to drop this by an additional 2. And it would be something like that. Now, the control surfaces have got to go. There we go. And so that might generate us a little bit more lift. Hopefully we'd be able to lift out of that dive. We'll see what that feels like. But for now, what we need to do, of course, is we need to pop this out. We need to go up here, and we need to turn on the center of mass versus the center of lift. Okay. So the center of lift is slightly behind the center of mass. That should be okay then, assuming that we generate enough lift. Now, I want to go into this engine, and I want to get rid of the gimbal on it. So there's a way to do that, and where is that? Gimbal range. We're just going to disable the gimbal on it. So that will save us some money, and we don't need to gimbal this engine, in theory. The other thing that we could do, of course, is we could make this thing be radial X4 like this and use these as stabilizers. We can see what that feels like. I don't know that that's a great idea, but it is time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to continue experimenting with this design. I think that if we can get to the point where it can pull out of that dive and glide, I think we're going to be good. Because at that point, it's just a matter of getting a little bit of steering in there. And that should be wonderful. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy Magar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Hiro Marutsu, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.